Welcome back to our journey to mental wellness. This is podcast number 2, and it is still about our feelings and emotions. I am Juhli again, and I'm so glad that you're here with us again today as we continue exploring to what it takes to truly care for our inner world. So in our last session, we focused on how our thoughts shape the feelings and how that awareness becomes the first step to our wellness journey. In today's episode, we are going even deeper by understanding the difference between feelings and emotions, because they are not the same. We often use them interchangeably, so we better clarify the difference. Most people may not realize that there is a distinction, but once we do, we can relate to ourselves and others in a more intentional way. Let's begin with a little help from psychology. And here's the breakdown. Emotions are our body's biological response to something that's happening. Usually, it's very automatically appearing in our bodies, often to be felt in the stomach or by a racing heart, a lump in our throat, or sweaty palms. These emotions are raw physical reactions, while feelings are how we receive and process these reactions. Emotions are manifesting subconsciously, as they can be brought to the surface of the conscious state through reflection and through digging a little inside us to bring us unresolved past experiences to surface. Emotions are also universally experienced by everyone, but feelings differ among some cultures as learning may be involved. Now we understand emotions are the body's reaction, and feelings are our mind's translations of that experience. When our buried feelings are reacting, they may go back in our experiences, sometimes very long time. So feelings, on the other hand, are how our mind interprets these emotions. They come from our thoughts, memories, and our past experiences. And yes, we are reminded again that it all goes back to our thoughts originally. So this is why it's so important to check in with ourselves before we act or speak, especially in emotional moments. So we need to become aware what I'm really feeling right now. Awareness can stop us from reacting in ways we later may regret. And it opens the door to being more present and more at ease. We then can check on our moods and states. It's good to pause and ask ourselves, am I calm? Am I irritated? Or am I holding sadness or tension that I didn't notice before? This helps us to avoid slipping into automatic behaviors. Instead, we can ask with awareness. This way we can learn to spot when we are sliding into negative states before they take over. Then what else can we do to ease tension? Smiling, for example, might feel superficial to some people, but studies show that simply holding a smile can ease the tension. It is a small but significant way of shifting energy. Of course, life isn't always predictable. We'll encounter hard days, challenges, painful surprises. Well, then our emotions may surface again, fast and strong, but it will depend much on how we react, how we can get back to our state of ease again. It is an opportunity to watch our thoughts, as they always have an influence on how we feel. Now the question is, how do we respond when we are suddenly hurt, anxious, or overwhelmed? Again, we have to acknowledge these feelings at first and then be aware, because now we need to be very careful how we react. We need to find out more how to respond effectively, not to hurt ourselves or others. That's where we can get back to what we already know. Let's look at 3 powerful emotional states we all experience and how we can tend to them, especially when being hurt by someone else. When it is someone close to us, it will make us react. We may break out in tears or get angry. Why? Well, being hurt often involves a blow to how we see ourselves, especially when it comes from someone close to us. When it brings up tears or anger in us, underneath there's usually a part of us that hasn't been fully healed, because we haven't recognized the hurt feelings that are already inside our psyche and body. In that moment, we need to treat our emotional wounds the same way we would treat our physical ones. It has to be with care, not with shame or anger. And again, we need to acknowledge them and then make it a reason to dig a little further inside us and examine the whys. Well, we need to have to come up with, and then further be quite gentle with ourselves. So now we may recognize that we're a little more anxious. We know that it is a memory that made us react. Anxiety will also come from unresolved pain, sometimes from long ago. It lingers when we avoid attending to it. Over time, it can chip away our confidence. And when we feel anxious, the worst thing we can do is blame ourselves, because self-blame only magnifies fear and stalls our growth. And we now know what to do when being anxious. We must soothe ourselves because of the pain we forgot to attend to when we experienced it in the past. Sadness is part of life. Often we do recover naturally, but when sadness deepens into depression, it can paralyze our energy and clarity. That is when support is essential. It is brave to ask for help, and even braver to face what we have pushed down for us for too long. Facing our buried feelings is not easy, because hurt feelings need attention we don't know how to give. We cannot see ourselves crying for fear it will make us look weak to others, so we keep avoiding it. But if we experience the pain, we have no choice but soothe the pain. Crying releases so much pent-up stuff, so that we must accept that crying is the best solution to this particular problem. It can only get worse for us if we don't attend to our hurt feelings. Triggers will always show up without warning, even when we are in a good mental state. Our fears may be strongly demonstrated when we can get into a state of overreaction, in case we are caught by the fight or flight syndrome or response. This response can easily occur without realizing us, because our hurts cause fears we are not aware of. And so it is the study of psychology that teaches us that holding back on our feelings gives us false sense of security. These fears are often called to be irrational because, there's no bear chasing us, but to us, experiencing them, they are very real. So it is good to point out that our negative emotions have to be processed. We need to feel safe, and we should be able to share what we experience with others. But it's not always possible, partly because of us fearing being judged, or we judge the other person. It can give us a positive experience when the other person can relate what is being said and can share similar experiences with us. But this is not practiced very commonly, but of course it should. When we are triggered, to react with anger is our worst response. The anger can only be directed against ourselves, not at the persons we may be reacting towards. That's why we must be careful when reacting. We must look after ourselves and be kind, also trying to stay open to ourselves, always trying to find out what fear we have just triggered, and be curious. We may find the answers, and we are then on our way to heal. We can detect further that there can be many different types of emotional states. For understanding the different states, we need to develop some strategies to stay with our positive states. So we can practice empathy with ourselves and others, not to be overwhelmed by our negative states. The study of psychology identifies primary, basic emotions, and then complex emotions. So the basic emotions are happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust. These can be visible through facial expressions and body language. And then the others, those are the complex emotions, which are more influenced by personal experiences and cognitive processes. For these, a higher level of self-awareness is required. So then there are, to name the common ones, guilt, shame, pride, jealousy, and also gratitude. These involve intricate thought patterns and social evaluations. At all times, the negative emotions result from experiencing some personal hurts, which again result from a damaged sense of self. Of course, anytime it is necessary to check ourselves, reminding us just to love ourselves. Further, we can move to the role of our positive feelings. These are here to energize us and uplift us. While they may not always last, we can make space for them to be able to return. We need to note what makes us feel good and try to follow it to build some emotional resilience. Even a short moment of peace matters. To collect enough of these moments, they become our new baseline. So then a good way of managing our emotions is to practice emotional intelligence. And this is the ability to understand, use, and regulate our emotions, as well as recognize and influence these emotions of others. The skills involved are usually self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, presence of mind, and good social skills. It can enhance our relationships and gain better communication with others and greater success in many areas of our life. We now wrap up today's session. And remember this, emotions and feelings are part of the human experience, but how we relate to them makes all the difference. And next time you feel something rising inside you, pause, name it, sit with it. That's where true mental clarity begins. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You are learning and growing, and you are doing better than you think. So in our next episode, we will explore more about the emotions by recognizing the different emotional states and their impact on relating with others. Thank you for joining us today, and see you in the next episode, podcast number 3.